What if the thing slowly destroying you is not failure, not loneliness, not your own mind? What if it is the people you trust the most? Here is the paradox nobody talks about. You can have a full life on paper, friends, conversations, people around you constantly, and still feel more alone, more exhausted, more empty than someone sitting in a room by themselves. How is that possible? Machiavelli had an answer. Rulers with armies, advisors with genius, men who survived war, famine, betrayal from enemies. And he noticed something that changed everything he ever wrote about power. The ones who collapsed did not fall from the outside. They were emptied from the inside, by the people closest to them, by the ones who smiled the warmest and took the most quietly. He called it the invisible drain, the slow death of a man's power through 1,000 small moments he never thought to protect himself from. But here is the part that will stay with you long after this video ends. Most people who are being drained do not look like victims. They look like givers. They look like the dependable one, the understanding one, the one who always shows up, always listens, always makes space for everyone else. And that is exactly why nobody warns them. Because from the outside, it looks like strength. It looks like generosity. It looks like a person who has it together. But on the inside, you know the truth. You are exhausted in a way you cannot explain to anyone. Because how do you tell someone that the very act of caring for people has become the thing that is quietly hollowing you out? You do not have to explain it. This video already knows. In this video, you are going to recognize exactly where your energy has been going and exactly who has been taking it. Drop this in the comments right now. I am done being drained. Let's begin. Here is what nobody tells you. The exhaustion you are carrying right now is not random. It is not a phase. It is not something that sleep will fix. It is the result of a very specific transfer that has been happening around you, probably for years. Machiavelli wrote that the most dangerous threat to any powerful man is not his enemy. It is the person inside his circle who takes without giving back, the one who extracts energy, attention, and time while offering nothing in return, except obligation, except guilt, except the feeling that walking away would make you the bad person. You know that feeling. You have felt it. Someone calls and you already feel tired before you answer. Someone texts and you stare at the screen knowing that whatever you say, it will cost you something. Someone walks into the room and the temperature in your body changes. Not excitement, not warmth. Wait, that is not sensitivity. That is not you being antisocial. That is a signal, a precise, intelligent signal from the deepest part of your mind telling you, this person is costing you more than you realize. Here is what Machiavelli understood that most people never do. Power does not leak from dramatic moments. It does not disappear in one betrayal or one fight. It leaks slowly, invisibly, through 1,000 small interactions where you gave and they took, and nothing ever balanced. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not antisocial. You have been running on empty because the people around you learned early that you would keep giving even when you had nothing left. That ends today. What you are about to recognize in these next few minutes will not just explain the exhaustion, it will show you exactly where your power went. And more importantly, it will show you how to take it back. Are you ready? 1. Solitude feels like relief, not loneliness. You do not miss people when they are gone. You exhale. Think about that for a second. Most people assume that if you enjoy being alone, something must be wrong with you. You must be sad. You must be withdrawing. You must be struggling. But what if the opposite is true? What if the peace you feel when you are finally alone is not the absence of happiness, but the presence of it? What if silence is not emptiness, but the first honest breath you have taken all day? Machiavelli understood that the ruler who could not be alone could not think, and the ruler who could not think could not protect himself. Because When you are constantly surrounded by people, constantly performing, constantly managing the emotional weather of everyone around you, your mind never gets the space to see clearly. You stop thinking. You start reacting. And that is exactly where manipulative people want you. Reactive, overwhelmed, too tired to notice what is actually happening. When you start craving solitude, your mind is not giving up on connection. It is reclaiming something it lost. Clarity. Strategy. The quiet place where you can finally hear your own thoughts without someone else's noise bleeding into them. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote that the lonely one will find the deeper self. Not because isolation is the goal, but because without space, there is no self to find. You cannot know what you want when you are always accommodating what others need from you. Here is the truth Machiavelli would tell you directly. The most powerful person in any room is not the most social one. It is the one who does not need the room at all. The one who chooses to be present, not the one who cannot function without company. When you began choosing your own silence over someone else's noise, that was not you becoming cold. That was you becoming dangerous in the best possible way. There is a specific kind of person who becomes threatened when you start enjoying your own company. They call you distant. They call you weird. They say things like, "You used to be so fun," or "You have changed." Pay close attention to who says that, because the people who benefit from your constant availability are always the first ones to pathologize your peace. They need you exhausted. They need you responsive. They need you to feel guilty for protecting your own mental space, because the moment you stop feeling guilty, their access to you disappears. And they know it. The peace you feel alone is not isolation. It is intelligence. It is your internal compass finally pointing in the right direction after years of being spun in circles by people who needed you confused. This is not you running away from life. This is you running toward the only version of yourself that has any real power left. Machiavelli said that a man who cannot stand alone cannot stand at all. The moment you stopped needing noise to feel okay, you became someone that the wrong people could no longer control. Do not apologize for that. Do not shrink back into availability just because someone is uncomfortable with your distance. The silence you have been choosing is not a symptom, it is the cure. And somewhere inside you, you already knew that. You just needed permission to stop calling it a problem. 2. Conversations feel like transactions you never agreed to. You look at the message, you read it, you put the phone down, not because you are rude, not because you do not care, but because somewhere between the words on that screen and the energy it will cost you to respond, your brain did a calculation and the answer came back the same way it always does. Not worth it. Here is what that calculation is actually measuring. Every conversation has a hidden economy. Someone gives energy. Someone takes energy. In a healthy exchange, both people leave the conversation carrying roughly the same weight they brought in, maybe even lighter. In a draining conversation, one person leaves lighter and the other leaves emptier. You have had too many of the second kind. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. He watched political relationships and saw that most of them were not alliances. They were slow extractions. One party would consistently give time, loyalty, information, emotional investment. The other party would consistently receive, process, and use that investment to build their own position while contributing nothing of equal value in return. He called these relationships dangerous not because they were dramatic, but because they were invisible. You could not see the drain happening. You only felt the result. A growing heaviness, a reluctance, a quiet internal refusal that everyone around you mistook for rudeness. That refusal is not rudeness. That refusal is intelligence. When your body stops wanting to engage with certain conversations, it is because it has already learned the pattern. It has already run that exchange 100 times and stored the outcome. Tired, empty, slightly more disconnected than before. And now it is trying to protect you from running it again. Here is the part nobody talks about. The conversations that drain you most are rarely the obviously terrible ones. They are the ones that feel almost real, almost deep, almost worth it. You walk in hoping this time will be different. This time they will actually hear you. This time the exchange will feel like two people actually connecting instead of one person performing for another's benefit. But it never is. And you already know before it even starts. That is why the phone feels heavy in your hand. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But when it comes to people who drain you, the opposite is true. The anticipation does not lie. The dread you feel before engaging with someone is not anxiety. It is memory. It is every previous version of that conversation stored in your body, warning you what comes next. Machiavelli would tell you this: the prince who continues investing in alliances that produce nothing is not loyal. He is foolish. Loyalty requires reciprocity. Effort requires return. And a conversation that consistently leaves you emptier than it found you is not a connection worth maintaining. You are not antisocial. You are not broken. You are not going through a phase. You have simply started measuring conversations the way they should always have been measured: by what they cost, by what they return, by whether or not you feel more like yourself or less like yourself when they end. And once you start measuring that honestly, some conversations stop looking like conversations at all. They start looking like habits you never chose, obligations disguised as friendship, relationships built on your willingness to keep giving, and their certainty that you always would. Drop this in the comments. I stopped explaining my silence. 3. Negativity hits different now. You used to be able to handle it. The complaints, the drama, the same circular conversations about problems that never got solved, because solving them was never the point. You used to sit there and listen, nod, offer something helpful, and then go home feeling like you had done your part. Now you cannot get through 5 minutes of it before something inside you wants to leave the room. And you have probably been told that makes you less compassionate, less present, less of a good friend. That is not what it means. Here is what Machiavelli observed in courts filled with advisors, flatterers, and complainers. There is a specific category of person who does not bring problems to find solutions. They bring problems to transfer the emotional weight of carrying them. The goal is not resolution. The goal is to no longer be the only one suffering. Misery, as he understood it, is not just a feeling. In the hands of the wrong person, it is a strategy. When someone consistently brings you their chaos, their complaints, their unending crises, and nothing ever changes, they are not looking for your wisdom. They are using your attention as a landfill, somewhere to dump what they do not want to carry alone. And you, because you were taught that caring means absorbing, have been accepting delivery for years. Your tolerance has not decreased. Your discernment has increased. There is a profound difference. The person who can no longer sit through someone else's performance of suffering without feeling manipulated is not a cold person. They are an aware person. They have developed the ability to distinguish between real pain, which deserves genuine presence, and performed helplessness, which is designed to extract. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man always listens but rarely absorbs. He takes in information. He processes it, but he does not let another person's emotional state become his own internal weather. Most people have never learned that distinction. They were taught that empathy means feeling what others feel. That support means carrying what others carry. That being a good person requires absorbing the weight that others refuse to put down. That is not empathy. That is exploitation dressed as virtue. The exhaustion you feel around certain people's negativity is not you failing them. It is your mind drawing a line that your kindness has been too generous to draw for you. Here is something specific to notice. The people whose negativity drains you most are rarely the ones in genuine crisis. A person in real pain does not need an audience. They need relief. They reach toward solutions. They accept help when it is offered. The person whose negativity drains you is the one who refuses every exit you offer. Every suggestion gets deflected. Every solution gets rejected. Because if the problem is solved, the performance ends. And if the performance ends, so does your attention. You started noticing this not because you stopped caring, but because you started seeing clearly for the first time. That clarity is not coldness. That clarity is power. Machiavelli called the ability to read people's intentions without being swayed by their presentations one of the most critical skills a person could develop. Not cynicism, not suspicion, just the willingness to watch what people do rather than what they say. And let that be your guide. You have developed that skill whether you intended to or not. Stop calling it being cold. Start calling it being awake. 4. The day you stopped justifying your existence to the wrong people. And this one is the most important. You used to explain everything. Your choices, your silence, your decisions, your feelings, your reasons for doing something, and your reasons for not doing something else. You would send the long message, make the detailed phone call, lay out your reasoning carefully, hoping that if you explained it clearly enough, they would finally understand. They never did, and somewhere along the way, you stopped trying. Not in defeat, in something closer to wisdom. Machiavelli made an observation that most people never fully grasp. He wrote that the moment a ruler begins justifying his decisions to those beneath him, he has already begun to lose. Because authority does not ask for permission. Authority does not require approval. The instant you explain yourself to someone who was never qualified to judge you, you hand them a power they did not earn and should never have had. Think about what explaining yourself actually does. It invites evaluation. The moment you explain your reasoning, you are implicitly asking the other person to assess whether your reasoning is valid. You are placing yourself in front of a judge who never passed any test to hold that position. You are submitting your inner world for a verdict from someone whose understanding of your life is shallow at best, and whose interest in controlling it is significant. And the people who consistently demanded your explanations knew this, maybe not consciously, but they knew that as long as you kept explaining, they kept the power to decide whether your explanation was good enough. It never was. That was the design. There is a specific pattern that draining people use without realizing it. They express confusion. They imply misunderstanding. They perform hurt. Not because they genuinely do not understand, but because your instinct to be understood is one of the most reliable levers they have found to pull. The moment you feel misunderstood, you talk more, you go deeper, you offer more of yourself trying to bridge a gap they have no intention of closing. And while you are busy bridging, they are busy taking. What changed when you stopped explaining? You became unreadable. And the unreadable person is the powerful person. Machiavelli understood something about silence that most political theorists missed. Silence is not absence. Silence is information. When you stop explaining your decisions, other people have nothing to work with. They cannot locate your insecurities. They cannot find the cracks in your reasoning to push through. They cannot calculate your next move because you have given them no map. Your silence became armor before you even knew you were in a fight. There is something else that happened when you stopped explaining. You realized how few of the people demanding explanations actually deserved access to your inner world at all. Because when you stopped offering it freely, most of them did not ask in a way that felt genuine. They pushed. They implied you were being secretive. They made your silence into an accusation. That reaction told you everything. A person who genuinely cares about understanding you will be patient with your silence. They will make space for it. They will not weaponize it. The ones who escalate when you stop explaining are the ones who needed your explanations as a form of control, not connection. Let them be frustrated. Their frustration is not your responsibility. It is their response to losing leverage. Here is what Machiavelli would say to you directly. You do not owe anyone a window into your mind. You do not owe anyone a justification for your choices. You do not owe anyone the vulnerability of your reasoning. These are gifts, and like all gifts, they should be reserved for people who have demonstrated they will handle them with care. Most people have not. Most people took what you gave them and used it to push against you more precisely. Every decision you have made that you did not explain, that was not you being cold. That was you finally operating from a position of power. Every silence you chose over a defensive paragraph, that was not you giving up. That was you refusing to play a game designed for you to lose. You stopped explaining yourself. That was not a sign of defeat. That was the beginning of your power. 5. You already know how you will feel before it even starts. You do not just avoid certain people anymore. You have started doing something more precise than that. Before you walk into a situation, before you accept an invitation, before you pick up a call, you already know what you are walking into. Not from information, from pattern. From the thousands of times your body logged the result of engaging with this person and filed it somewhere more accurate than memory. You measure people in energy, not in time. This is what most people will never understand. The length of a relationship is not its value. You can know someone for 10 years and they can still cost you more than they contribute. You can meet someone for the first time and feel more genuinely seen in an hour than you have in a decade of obligatory friendships. Machiavelli was ruthless about this distinction, not in a cruel way, in a clear way. He wrote that alliances built on history alone are the most fragile kind. Loyalty without mutual benefit is sentiment. And sentiment, as he understood it, is the most expensive luxury a person in a position of power can afford. You have started thinking this way about your own energy, and the people who have been coasting on the history you share with them have started to feel that shift. They call it you becoming different. What they mean is you have become harder to take for granted. Here is something worth sitting with. The people you have started instinctively pulling back from were not necessarily bad people from the beginning. Some of them started out genuine. Some of them were people you genuinely chose. But somewhere along the way, the dynamic shifted. The exchange became unequal. The investment became one-sided. And neither of you acknowledged it openly, because acknowledgement would have required one of you to change. You noticed it first. That is why you are the one pulling back. And that is not a betrayal of the relationship. It is an honest assessment of it. What Machiavelli taught, and what almost no one applies to personal life, is that continued investment in a declining return is not loyalty. It is self-destruction dressed as devotion. The general who refuses to retreat from a losing position does not die loyal. He just dies. You started retreating, not from life, from specific situations that were consistently costing you more than they returned. That is not avoidance. That is strategy. The quiet calculation you do now before agreeing to spend your time with someone. That is not you becoming cold or disconnected. That is you finally treating your energy as the finite, irreplaceable resource it actually is. Some people will not like the new version of this calculation because the new version does not automatically include them. And being excluded from someone's unconditional access is deeply uncomfortable for people who relied on it. Let them be uncomfortable. Your energy is not a public resource. It never was. You just allowed it to be treated like one for too long. Machiavelli understood that the ruler who could not say no to the wrong people could never fully say yes to the right ones. Every misplaced investment is a missed one. Every conversation you sat through out of guilt was one you could not give to something that actually deserved you. You have started making different choices, more honest ones, more deliberate ones. That is not you becoming less caring. That is you caring about the right things for the first time. 6. You stopped performing connection. There was a version of you that could walk into any room, talk to anyone, laugh at anything, and leave without anyone suspecting that none of it felt real. You were good at performing connection. Some people still remember that version of you and do not understand why you are not putting on the same show anymore. Here is why. Because performance is exhausting. And eventually, even the best performers hit a wall, where the gap between the face they put on and the reality underneath becomes too wide to cross every morning. You hit that wall. It did not make you broken. It made you honest. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who governs through performance alone cannot sustain it. The mask requires more energy than the truth. And eventually, the cost of maintaining the mask becomes higher than the cost of what the mask was protecting. You have started demanding real. Not perfect, not endlessly deep, just real. You no longer want to spend 3 hours in a conversation and leave without having said or heard one true thing. You no longer want to sit in a room full of people and feel more alone than you do in your actual solitude. You no longer want to perform enthusiasm you do not feel for connections that have never gone below the surface. This is not you becoming difficult. This is you finally understanding the difference between presence and performance. Here is what nobody tells you about the people who only connect on a surface level. It is not accidental. Shallow connection is a choice. It is a way of being available without being accountable. It offers the social reward of company without the actual risk of vulnerability. The people who stay purely on the surface are not incapable of depth. They are afraid of it, and they need you to stay shallow with them because your depth would expose their avoidance. When you stopped performing and started requiring real connection, you stopped being useful to that kind of person, and they started pulling away or pushing back. Good. Carl Jung wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. The people who avoid depth are avoiding that acceptance. They have built a life of surface interactions precisely because depth would require looking at what they have been refusing to look at. That is not your work to do for them. You cannot drag someone into honest connection who has decided comfort is safer than truth. What you can do is stop making yourself available to connection that costs you reality. Machiavelli was not sentimental about relationships that had stopped serving either party. He understood that holding on to alliances out of nostalgia was a form of strategic failure. The relationship that no longer creates genuine exchange is not a relationship. It is a habit. And habits that drain you are not loyalty. They are inertia. Your circle getting smaller is not a loss. It is a refinement. Every person who left because you stopped performing for them created space for something more honest. Not necessarily more people, just more truth, more weight, more of the rare feeling that the person across from you is actually there. That is what you have been looking for this entire time. Not more connection, better connection. And the only way to find it was to stop settling for the performance. Drop this in the comments. I choose real over comfortable. 7. Your body knows before your mind admits it. You got enough sleep. You did nothing unusual. You rested. And you still woke up feeling like you had been carrying something heavy through the night. The tiredness that will not lift with sleep is not physical. You probably already know that. But knowing it and understanding what it means are two different things. Your body is not confused. Your body is precise. Every interaction that cost you more than it returned left a residue. Not visible, not dramatic, but real. It accumulated the way debt accumulates when you are not paying close attention. Slowly, silently, and then all at once. Machiavelli wrote about this through a different lens, but the principle is identical. He observed that the most destructive losses a man experiences are not the dramatic ones. They are the quiet, consistent extractions that happen across hundreds of small moments where nothing seemed wrong enough to address. By the time the damage becomes visible, the source has been operating for years. Your emotional exhaustion is not a mystery. It is a ledger. On one side, everything you have given, your attention, your patience, your forgiveness, your presence in conversations you did not want to have, your performance in rooms that never deserved your real self, your willingness to absorb what others refused to carry. On the other side, what came back? If the ledger is not balanced, if you have been consistently giving more than you have received, the exhaustion makes perfect sense. It is not a malfunction. It is arithmetic. Here is what Machiavelli understood about power that applies directly to what you are feeling right now. Energy is the original currency. Before money, before status, before influence, there is energy. And the person who learns to conserve it, direct it, and refuse to give it away without return is the person who eventually holds every other kind of power. The people in your life who have been exhausting you are not just draining your mood, they are draining your capacity, your ability to think clearly, to make decisions that serve you, to build anything that actually matters. Every conversation you sat through out of obligation rather than genuine desire cost you not just time, but the mental and emotional bandwidth that could have gone somewhere useful. This is not metaphor. This is the actual mechanism of how people lose their potential. Not through dramatic failure, through 1,000 quiet surrenders to people and situations that did not deserve that much of them. You feel it now because you have finally reached the point where denial is no longer possible. Your body stopped cooperating with the performance. The tiredness that sleep cannot fix is your nervous system finally going on strike after years of being overextended. That is not weakness. That is honesty in the purest possible form. Your mind can rationalize. It can find reasons to keep giving. It can convince itself that things will get better, that people will change, that one more conversation will somehow resolve what 100 conversations never have. But your body does not rationalize. It just responds. And right now it is responding to years of misplaced investment by refusing to pretend anymore that the exchange has been fair. Listen to it, not with panic, not with bitterness, with the same cold clarity that Machiavelli brought to every situation where the evidence contradicted the preferred narrative. The narrative was, these people care about you. This is worth it. Keep going. The evidence is, you are exhausted. The exchange is unequal, and the sleep that should restore you no longer does. The evidence wins. Now the question is not what is wrong with you. The question is what you do with this information. Here is the reframe that changes everything. Every sign you just recognized in yourself has been presented to you your entire life. As a problem, you are too sensitive, you are antisocial, you are distant, you are cold. You have changed. You used to be easier to be around. Those were never observations. They were pressure campaigns, delivered by the exact people who had the most to lose from you, recognizing your own power. Because a person who needs constant solitude to recover is a person who is spending too much time with the wrong people. And if you realize that, you pull back. And if you pull back, they lose access. A person who stops explaining themselves becomes uncontrollable. And an uncontrollable person cannot be managed, manipulated, or kept small enough to stay useful. A person who stops performing connections suddenly requires real investment from anyone who wants to be in their life. And real investment requires people to give something back. For people who have only ever taken, that requirement is catastrophic. Every sign you recognize today is not a symptom of something going wrong. It is evidence of something going right. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who finally sees the court clearly is more dangerous in his wisdom than he ever was in his innocence, because wisdom cannot be undone. Once you see the actual structure of what has been happening around you, you cannot unsee it. You cannot unknow what you now know about who has been taking from you. You cannot unlearn the feeling of genuine peace versus performed tolerance. You cannot pretend that the weight you feel around certain people is something you imagined. The tiredness you have been carrying is not the end of something. It is the beginning of something. It is the beginning of clarity, of precision, of choosing for the first time based on what actually serves you, rather than what manages everyone else's comfort. Machiavelli did not become powerful by giving everyone equal access. He became powerful by understanding exactly who deserved his presence, his trust, and his energy. and giving it only to them. You are arriving at the same understanding, later than would have been ideal, earlier than it could have been. And from this point forward, the people who get your time will have earned it. The conversations you have will carry real weight. The connections you keep will have genuine cost and genuine return, because you finally know what your energy is actually worth. You are not tired of life. You have been pouring yourself into people and places that were never going to pour back. You have been showing up fully for people who were showing up partially. You have been treating your energy as infinite when it has always been the most finite thing you own. That is over now. Not because you are becoming cold, not because you are giving up on people, but because you finally understand something that changes everything. Your presence is not a default. It is a gift, and gifts given without discernment are not generosity. They are the slow erosion of something that was never meant to be given away freely. Machiavelli spent his life watching people hand their power to others, piece by piece, without ever recognizing it was happening. He watched good men collapse, not from enemy attacks, but from the accumulated weight of people they trusted too easily, gave too much to, and protected too long after the evidence said stop. He wrote not to warn the powerful. He wrote to wake up the ones who had not yet realized they were powerful at all. That is you. That has always been you. The exhaustion you have been feeling is not a sign of weakness. It is the signal that your power is waking up, that some part of you has been demanding more honest terms for a very long time and has finally been heard. So here is what you do now. You stop apologizing for your silence. You stop explaining your distance. You stop performing presence for people who would never perform it for you. You stop investing in relationships that have never balanced. And you start asking one question before every single interaction. Does this person deserve what I am about to give them? If the answer is not a clear yes, you already know what to do. And here is the final thing, the one most people never say out loud. You are allowed to grieve this. Not every person you pull back from is a villain. Some of them were people you genuinely loved. Some of them were people you built years with. Some of them probably never intended to drain you. They just kept taking, because you kept giving, and nobody ever stopped to ask whether the exchange was fair. That grief is real. Do not rush past it. But understand this, grieving what something was does not mean returning to what it became. You can honor the version of a relationship that once mattered while refusing to stay inside the version that is slowly hollowing you out. Those two things can exist at the same time. Machiavelli understood that the hardest decisions are never between good and evil. They are between what once was good and what the evidence now shows. The ruler who cannot release a loyalty that has expired does not die noble. He just dies holding on to something that stopped serving him long before the end. You have been holding on to people, to dynamics, to a version of yourself that believed if you just gave a little more, tried a little harder, stayed a little longer, something would finally shift. It was never going to shift. Not because you were not enough, but because some people are only capable of taking. And no amount of your giving was ever going to change that fundamental truth about them. What you are walking away from was never going to become what you needed it to be. What you are walking toward is the first honest version of your life. One where your energy goes to people who feel its value. One where your presence means something because it is no longer automatic. One where the connections you keep are the ones that make you more of yourself, not less. You are not tired of life. You are waking up to it. And the people who cannot handle the more awake version of you were never meant to stay. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. My energy is not free. Neither am I. If this reached something real in you today, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Like this video so it finds the people still carrying weight that was never theirs to carry. And subscribe because what comes next goes even deeper. You already know what you need to do. Now go do it. Of one more person who needs to hear it, Share it with the person who is spinning 5 plates right now, wondering why nothing is sticking. And subscribe, because what comes next goes even deeper.